Not everyone you need to be wary of announces their intentions with loud words or aggressive actions. In fact, some of the most dangerous people in your life right now are the ones who hide their true nature behind a facade of charm, helpfulness, and subtle manipulation. They are masters of blending in, quietly dismantling your self-worth while you're focused on their seemingly positive qualities. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, spent his career exploring the deepest parts of the human mind. He made it clear that to understand people, you can't just look at their persona, the social mask they present to the world. You must also understand their shadow, the repressed, unconscious parts of themselves they have rejected or hidden. Jung believed the most destructive individuals are those who have not integrated their shadow, and as a result, they project their own internal darkness onto others. This is the root of the 6 dangerous personality types he identified. The 6 personality masks you can't trust. The chronic victim. This person is a master of emotional manipulation, but it's so subtle that it often goes unnoticed. They never take responsibility for their own lives, everything that happens to them is someone else's fault. On the surface, you feel bad for them and want to help, but Jung saw this as a weapon. They use their pain to gain sympathy and, more importantly, to control you. They turn your natural empathy into a sense of obligation, making you feel responsible for their well-being. The chronic victim doesn't actually want to heal because their victimhood is their only source of power. If they were to change, they would lose the pity and attention they crave. You don't just help them, you end up carrying them, and their pain becomes a burden you're made to feel guilty for not sharing. The charming mirror. This person is the ultimate chameleon. They reflect back exactly what you want to see, making you feel completely understood and validated. They are agreeable, supportive, and they will agree with your opinions and laugh at your jokes as if they are a perfect match. At first, they feel like your biggest supporter, but over time, you realize you have no idea who they really are. This is because there is nothing real behind the mask, they are simply mirroring you to gain your trust. Jung described this as the persona trap, where the individual has become so identified with their social mask that their real self remains hidden and unaccountable. The charming mirror is dangerous because what you're trusting isn't a person, but an empty performance. They have no substance, no stable values, and no loyalty. The moment you stop admiring them, they will either disappear or turn on you. The passive-aggressive enabler. This is one of the most insidious types because their actions appear to be helpful or supportive. They don't openly criticize you, they subtly undermine you. They'll listen to your dreams and then say something like, "That's ambitious. I just don't want you to be disappointed," or, "You're so brave for trying that, I don't think I'd ever risk failing." While it sounds like a concerned friend, it's actually a slow erosion of your confidence. They present their own fears and doubts as wise counsel, making you internalize their limitations as your own. Jung believed this type pretends to empower you while quietly ensuring you never outgrow them. Your success threatens their relevance and invisible control over you. They clip your wings and call it support. The secret competitor. This person isn't competing with the world, they're competing with you, but they do it in secret. They act as your friend and applaud your success, but every good thing that happens to you is a threat to their ego. They will minimize your achievements, redirect attention back to themselves, and find a way to tell a similar story that's slightly more impressive. Jung believed this behavior is driven by a deep, unconscious sense of inferiority. They don't hate you, they resent the way your success reflects their own inadequacy. Instead of dealing with their own feelings, they compete secretly, offering backhanded compliments and only celebrating you when they feel they are ahead. You can feel this tension in their forced praise, and if you ignore it, you will continue to give your trust to someone who sees you as a threat, not a friend. The spiritual narcissist, the wise one. This individual presents themselves as enlightened, mature, and emotionally advanced. They use spiritual language, quote philosophical concepts, and talk about holding space and shadow work. They appear to be above conflict and ego, but in reality, they are deeply attached to being seen as superior. Jung would call this a split psyche, where their conscious mind clings to a spiritual identity while their unconscious ego leaks out as quiet superiority and judgment. They don't dominate you by arguing, they dominate you by always being the calm one, making you feel emotional, unhealed, or spiritually inferior. If you push back, they will reframe your anger as a flaw in you, saying, "You're still reacting, you have inner work to do." This is a power play that invalidates your reality and keeps you dependent on their clarity. The empath who controls. This person seems to be a master of connection. They are highly sensitive, they feel everything, and they make you feel deeply seen and understood. At first, this feels like a gift, but it slowly becomes a tool for control. You find yourself adjusting your behavior, suppressing your emotions, and walking on eggshells so you don't disturb their energy. They will use their emotional state to manipulate you, often saying things like, "That energy really affects me." Over time, you begin to manage their emotions, convincing yourself that their pain is your fault. Jung warned that many people who claim to be highly sensitive are actually projecting their own unhealed chaos and demanding that the world reorganize itself around their wounds. They don't want connection, they want emotional safety at your expense, and if you fail to provide it, they will paint you as the problem. The way forward, integrating your shadow. Jung's deeper warning is that you often attract what you haven't integrated. If you keep attracting these types of people, it's a signal that there's a part of you that needs to be healed. For example, if you are always surrounded by victims, a part of you may need to feel needed to feel valuable. If you are constantly betrayed by charming people, it may be because you value external approval more than internal clarity. The solution, according to Jung, is not to become cold but to become whole. This requires you to integrate your shadow, the parts of you that you were told were too much, too selfish, or unlovable. When you repress your anger, you tolerate disrespect. When you repress your intuition, you ignore red flags. When you repress your self-protection, you let in people who will slowly consume you. To move forward, you must do the following. Audit your circle, ask yourself who drains your energy, who confuses you, and who you constantly have to explain yourself to. Let go of them without guilt. Let your shadow speak, stop trying to be perfect. Allow yourself to say no, to get angry, and to question people's intentions. Your shadow isn't evil, it's a protective force. Trust what you felt, that gut feeling you had the first time you met someone wasn't paranoia, it was your subconscious picking up on patterns. Start listening to it. Stop explaining, the people who deserve your energy won't need you to justify your boundaries, they'll respect them. Those who demand explanations are the ones you need to let go of. Jung didn't want you to be afraid of the world, he wanted you to stop being afraid of your own knowing. The more you integrate your shadow, the fewer toxic people will get close. Your energy will no longer give them entry, and you will become someone no manipulator can reach because you are awake, whole, and impossible to trick. The deeper warning, why you're a target and how to become bulletproof. By now, you've seen the 6 psychological masks Carl Jung identified: the chronic victim, the charming mirror, the passive-aggressive enabler, the secret competitor, the spiritual narcissist, and the empathic controller. Jung's work wasn't just about identifying these types, it was a profound warning about why you attract them and how to stop. The people who wear these masks aren't always deliberately evil. Instead, they are deeply unconscious of their own internal chaos. They never face their own shadow, the repressed parts of themselves that are manipulative, selfish, and controlling, so they project it onto others. They make you carry the darkness they refuse to own. This isn't just bad luck. Jung would argue, you're not being punished, you're being mirrored. The toxic people you attract are often a reflection of what you haven't integrated within yourself. If you keep attracting victims, there's a part of you that needs to be needed in order to feel valuable. If you are constantly betrayed by charming people, you may be seeking external validation more than internal clarity. If you tolerate enablers who subtly undermine you, you might be afraid of your own power and prefer to stay small. The reason you tolerate these people in the first place is that you have repressed a crucial part of yourself, your shadow. Your shadow, your greatest weakness and your greatest strength. Jung taught that the shadow is everything you've disowned, the parts of you that were deemed too much, too selfish, or unlovable by others. So, you buried them. You became nice, you became helpful, and you became agreeable. You built a persona that was easy to love. But here's the dangerous trade-off: you lost your edge. When you repress your anger, you tolerate disrespect. When you repress your intuition, you ignore the red flags waving in front of you. When you repress your self-protection, you let in people who pretend to love you, only to slowly consume you. Jung didn't want you to become a cold, distrustful person. He wanted you to become whole. To do that, you must integrate your shadow, not by acting on its negative impulses, but by becoming conscious of them. You must stop pretending your patience is eternal and your trust is limitless. You must allow yourself to have boundaries, say no, and walk away from situations that drain you. As Jung famously said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. How to become permanently bulletproof. If this rings true, it's a sign that a part of you is waking up. It means you're tired of being easy to manipulate and ready to change. Here's how to move forward and become the kind of person no manipulator can reach. Audit your circle and let go. Who confuses you? Who do you feel you're constantly explaining yourself to? If someone requires constant context just to treat you with respect, they're not confused, they're avoiding accountability. Let them go without guilt. Embrace your inner protector. Stop trying to be perfect. Allow yourself to feel anger and to question people's intentions. Your shadow isn't evil, it's the part of you that remembers who you are when someone tries to make you forget. Let that part rise. Stop explaining yourself. Manipulative people will always demand explanations for your boundaries. They'll guilt-trip you and paint you as the problem. Let them. The people who deserve your energy will respect your boundaries without you having to justify them. Trust your gut. That feeling you had the first time you met someone, that subtle sense that something's off, was not paranoia. It was your subconscious reading a pattern that your conscious mind hadn't yet identified. Start listening to it, because the cost of ignoring it is your time, energy, and peace. The people Jung warned us about don't show up with warning signs. They show up with flattery, emotional stories, and promises of connection. But time always tells the truth, and when it does, you need to be far enough away that their behavior no longer costs you. Jung's final word is a call to radical self-awareness. The more you integrate your shadow, the more you stop explaining, fixing, and justifying your standards. You become a person who is awake, whole, and impossible to trick.